Never said I was a technical guru. Welcome everybody. It's Kelsey with Start Loving You and our Lunch and Listen, our weekly interview with amazing women like Miss Kelly Smith, my friend for years. We won't say how many years. And she has offered to give us a lot of pointers on how to push past your fears and, learn to be your own success. And she's a great example of it. She is CEO of a 7-figure company and started off with just a background of college and self-taught. So I'm really excited for her to share her tips with you, and I would love for you to introduce yourself.
Well, I like the amazing Kelly. I'll go with
right.
that. But I'm excited to be here and talk about what it takes to be either a business owner or to advance in a company or to go for a new job, just to try something new, whether it's physical fitness, whatever goal you have. It's always scary to throw your hat in the ring and go for that. And so the older I get, the better I'm getting at dealing with that feeling of fear and still doing it, because I finally have realized it is going to be okay.
Right.
And so talking about some of those lessons, and we all get our share of lessons. Some of us, we feel like we've gotten too many, but we all go through those trials and tribulations, and you come out the other side stronger. And so I've always been fascinated knowing people's stories and how they got to where they are, because it doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes when you watch it happening,
right.
But in retrospect, their story makes perfect sense, right? And so I'm finally at a point where I can see where all my different experiences and jobs came together to make it really clear and natural to be doing what I'm doing. But I wouldn't have thought that right out of the gate.
Although you probably, and I think it's true for all of us, hey everybody, welcome. I think it's true for all of us that, we have our own journeys, and so we know maybe what we want or what we're heading toward. And like you said, a lot of people won't see that until the very end. Hi, Jenny. A lot of people won't see that until the very end, but you've known all along, And a lot of us, maybe we know all along, here's our end goal, but how do we get there? And you keep trudging, and maybe people don't believe in what you're doing or aren't encouraging you because they don't see your end goal, but you have to support and encourage yourself. And that's why I'm excited for Kelly to share with us kind of those things that have helped her get to where she's at today.
Yeah.
Tell us where you maybe started. We had actually just chatted about the fact that she was able to take her marketing background and go into a family-owned business, and this really helped kick off her love of marketing. And so tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I went to the University of Washington, and I had 2 jobs all the way through school. So I taught fitness classes and worked in a restaurant, and I really loved it. But once I got my degree, which was in sociology of all things, I went to a recruiter and took a job at a general contracting firm, which was a backup receptionist job, and I made less money than I made
waitressing
in college.
Yeah, right.
And so it was painful, and I thought, gosh, how do people make this work, But I was lucky enough to be in a company that grew tremendously, and the owner's kids weren't interested in taking on any roles. And he and his wife wanted to groom people, and so I was in a very lucky place, and I went from backup receptionist to director of marketing, sitting on the steering committee, writing software. Basically, anything that I would be willing to try to do, they'd let me try to do, and I would surprise myself a lot by like Marie Forleo says, everything's figure-outable. And that really is a motto for me. I really think, especially now with all the resources that we have online, but back then I had permission to fail and try. And I tried to do that with my team here at Projected Growth. We're an all-female company, 15 women, and I've had many of my team try on different positions and not be successful or not like it, or it just wasn't the right fit.
Right.
Travel could have been a problem, or just not realizing how hard it is to work virtually, those kinds of things.
That's so true.
And so our company culture is try it, let's see if it works. Obviously I try to use people's highest and best skills, what they really like to do, because I want to grow people. So here, I experienced that by my first job. I had a chance to try things. And then we hired a business consultant who came in, and I just thought, wow, okay, that's what I want to do. I always knew since I was young I wanted to own my own business, and I don't know where that came from. Mm-hmm. I was kind of forced at an early age in a pageant to say what I was going to do with my life. And
I did not know this.
And so I grew up in a dance studio, and I taught dancing. That was my first job, which, by the way, paid so much money. I mean, I was like making $12 an hour back in the late 90s.
That's a lot of money.
Yes,
for a high schooler,
it was so much.
Right?
Yeah, and so everybody always entered the county pageant. Nobody ever really won, and like, oh crap, I won.
Oh,
and
I did not know these things. I've been friends with her for so long.
I don't like to talk about it because I don't like beauty pageants, or it was a scholarship pageant. Okay?
I like that.
Yes, and so you have to say what you want to be, what you want to do, and a lot of it's interviewing skills, which was terribly uncomfortable, like really uncomfortable.
Especially
all these
for
adults,
a teenager. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was 17, and they're asking me a lot of things about politics and reading the newspapers every day, which my parents didn't even do, so I was not coming from a place where I had a lot of those opinions worked out. Mm-hmm. So it was a great education, and I think it really taught me how to interview and how to do things you're afraid of, which life will consistently teach you that lesson until we're done living, I think. But because of that, it really forced me to say that, and now looking back at 17, I said I want to own and operate my own business because I love leading and creating the direction and figuring things out. So this has been the perfect business for me because we work with, 30 to 50 offices across the country every month. Mm-hmm. And so we have a standard program, but everything's different, and it actually uses a lot of my sociology background because every single office, it's people, and that's usually where the problem is.
Right, different people, different offices.
Yeah, or the leadership. And for me, too, growing this company, which doubled last year, they say that a company will grow to the ability of the owner, right? The owner's usually the stopping factor.
You're the steering wheel, right?
Yeah, and so if you don't do personal development and learn how to grow a team, you can't get to the next level by doing what you used to do. And that's scary because you finally figure out what works to get to 7 figures or whatever, and then you have to change it and create a team to delegate to scale. And that's a very different, scary animal.
That is.
And so, because you got to where you were because you had the grit and the pit bull mentality, and you do what it takes, and you'd work the hours, and you'd do it, right? Mm-hmm. But to do it to the next level has to be, you have to make other people want to do that on your behalf, with you, for you, right?
Right, yes.
And so the self-development piece that a lot of the physicians miss because, they're so driven to be the top of their class, it's so competitive.
Right.
Doctors
and they're
are real
focusing on their medical part, the medical side, and who's focusing on their marketing side.
They don't really they want patient care, and they don't really want to have to deal with staffing and those things and the marketing side. And so that's where we come in. But I have to say, in the last couple of years, the time and energy that I've spent on my own personal development, going to courses and taking more information, it's always been an interesting area to me since my early 20s anyway. I don't ever read nonfiction. I'm always reading and trying to better myself. But to become a leader to inspire other people and to make them stronger, happier, better, to create that company culture, which we really created about a year ago, is really my best accomplishment. I mean, that's my why, is growing these other women and feeling like we have each other's back, and it's really exciting to get there. And I could have not done it before. It's a process.
And getting them kind of on board to take that next jump to the next level, so that you're not the only one that's scared to take that leap, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they know that if there's a problem with a client, that I've got their back. I'm always going to give my staff the benefit of the doubt or the ability to take a promotion. My goal is for people to leave better than they came here. And with a virtual company, because I only have 5 or 6 people here, and then the other girls are around the country.
Right.
So every month I'll send a book or a Starbucks card or
Happy
some
mail.
kind of a gift.
We like happy mail. Let's start loving you.
Yeah, something for a wow for them, to know that they're appreciated. So we started this product of the month where I'll send them a complimentary medical skincare product, and they're expensive, right? And so we started talking about those things on our social media, because for me, I don't really like social media that much.
But she's good at it. But that's why you hire other people to help you
do it. Kim's good at it for me.
Right.
I'm not good at it personally, but I know how important it is, and we sell it for our practices that we have. So I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually content that matters. Like a product review. The practices always want to know what to cover. And it's like, okay, if I can just get things like that to where I think I'm adding value instead of noise,
It's a nice way to look at
then
it.
I really enjoy it more. But it takes a village, whether you're talking about raising kids or building a company to a level where you need a team. And so I think that that's something that when you create that, it helps you deal with the fear, because I know they have my back too. You know.
Well, and explain for some of the people that are on Start Loving You. Hi, everybody that's joining us. Kelly's on here with her PGC, Projected Growth Consulting, Facebook as well. So if we keep looking back and forth, that's why. But just give a brief little rundown of what you do for, what kind of practices you do it for, and what you offer, just so people know.
Well, after I worked for that one company and I went into business consulting, I decided I really wanted to open my own business. And so I called my sister and I opened a day spa in the Valley, which is how we ended up meeting and then getting together. The body spa, and then we sold it to Mosaic.
She sold it, yep, the body spa.
Yeah, I wanted to be in the softer side of business, the making people happy side of it. And so we had 20 employees. It was busy.
Did you really?
Yeah, we saw over 15,000 people a year in that little location there.
Sweetest little location. And what you said earlier, we chatted before we got on here and went live, but she said something about location that I think is important. Share to them what you said about that.
Well, I mean, location is what you hear. And I do think that's important as long as you can afford it. But if you're doing a startup and you're trying to test it to see if it's going to go, that's a lot of stress to have a high overhead. I think that people are looking for customer service and consistency in what you're doing more than the exact location. We were not in the best location, but we had $1 million day spot going, and in the middle of Millwood, kind of nowhere, in the basement of a brick house. Right?
Literally the basement of a brick house.
Yeah,
that is where
we did a lot of painting and curtains and workarounds.
It had the best
we got to do our own product line, which was fun. Yeah, it had a good feeling. But our goal was to make, we wanted to be like Cheers. Everybody, we would know a lot about all of our clients. We wanted to know their name, where they were from, and we did have a fair amount of people come from Seattle for Day of Beauty and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But that's sort of that was my first try at owning and operating a business, and that was before I had kids. And so Kim and I would alternate her travel and who was allowed to have a baby next.
This is her sister.
Yeah,
so if you have questions about starting a business with your sister or a friend, pop them on here and she'll answer them later.
Yeah. There's a couple of really easy things that help in that we could definitely touch on, but we loved owning it together. After I had Chloe, so I had 2 kids, she had 1, we decided to sell it to a competitor because it just, raising 20 women and the 2 kids and everything, it just became a lot. And so sold that, and then, I said, I'm not going to really own my own business again. But then this business was so different because of the level of staff that I have and the price point. It's not trying to make money, $50 at a time. So our consulting group, we work with plastic surgeons, dermatologists, and med spas, across the country, and we do on-site sales events for them to teach them how to sell their services. Because that's what I used to do at the body spa. We wouldn't discount, but we'd do an event once a month, and that's the same thing that I did with Shape when we grew that here. So 2009 is when I started doing consulting. I got approached by Sarah.
10 years, okay.
Yeah, Sarah's came and said, help us, these guys need help growing this laser center. And so that went so well that's when I started speaking nationally and taking on accounts and transitioning into just doing this. So we do marketing and social media for plastic surgeons and med spas.
Around the country,
all over
which
the
is
country.
why she needs a team of a lot of women.
I think we've got 30 events booked this month, so staff going around to 30 different cities to be on site. And so creating the systems and motivating staff, especially in a virtual environment, you really have to make sure that everyone feels valued, heard, part of the team. Creating that company culture is even trickier when you add logistics of virtual.
Them being further away, right? Yeah.
So that's been something that it's just gotten better and better over time, and I'm really proud of it because that's I think what takes a lot of businesses out around that 5-year mark.
Oh, that makes sense. That really does.
Yeah.
Share your thoughts, just in case people are thinking, how did you run a business with your sister, or how do you run a business with a friend? There might be, ladies on here. Hi, Mary, I see you. There might be ladies on here or gentlemen that are interested in opening a spa or opening just any sort of, a small business that they could turn into $1 million business. And so share a couple of your ideas of how to do that. Do it smoothly, I guess, as smoothly as you can.
Well,
Nothing's ever perfect.
They kind of say don't go into business with family or friends. I don't really agree with that. I think that even if it's not a family or friend, if there aren't clear definitions of who's to do what, you can run into trouble. So I was marketing and operations, I was marketing and finance. Kim did staffing and operations. And so that way we weren't stepping on each other's toes. Even in businesses like this and the ones I help, having a really clear job definition or job description is something that takes a lot of time and energy and detail, and a lot of times doesn't happen. And then we can't understand why people aren't performing and doing what we expect. But literally we cannot even articulate what it is that we expect. And so unless you can go through the time to really lay out who's supposed to do what and how you're supposed to get paid, those are the two biggest problems, is the money and stepping on each other's toes. Right?
It's so
and
true.
So
I think that's life in general.
Yeah. So if you guys know who's going to do what and clearly bullet it out so that you really know that, and then if one person's only going to work 40% of the time and the other person's going to, then the money should be that way. They should get 40% of the profit and the other person should get the 60. So if you're paid by, and I see this with doctors that try to partner too. They'll go in equally, but then one of them's doing a lot more surgery than the other, and that causes the problem. So you need to look at an equitable way, not just a 50-50, but an equitable way, and truly one of them should be the majority partner, so that if there has to be a difficult decision made, one of them really needs to have the power to do that. So they say don't do 50-50, even if it's 51-49.
I like that.
And so someone has to have the ultimate decision-making power. You have to be really clear of who's supposed to do what, and then how exactly are you going to split the money, because those are the things that break up partnerships of any kind of business, right? So
I like that. I didn't think about that, but I think that makes a lot of sense about having at least one person be that majority decision maker. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of, at least women, and this is my own experience too, you go into starting a small business, whether it's, working as in multi-level marketing, or it's going and, working somewhere else. But women, they make the mistake of going into it as a hobby. Instead of as a business, and so then they don't lay out those things that you're saying, like, okay, here's our percentage, and here's your, here is your skill set, so let's say that this is what your job description is. So that's really important that you don't go into it as a hobby. For example, Start Loving You. This was a hobby for me at first, and it's taken me a couple of years to realize you can't run a hobby
business like a hobby.
Yeah, it's got to be, you could take that passion, and instead of making it into a hobby, turn it into a business, because there's no way that you can grow and share it with everybody out there if you're not treating it as a business. So I've got set hours for myself and things like that, and I think that that's true for any successful business.
And sometimes when you start it, you're just trying to see if it'll work, but then once it starts to happen, then it's worth the time and energy to go through those steps. And then that last step is, if it's not going well and we start owing money, how is that split? Because that's also the 40-60. So you don't want to plan for that, but you at least need to discuss it. Or if we don't make enough money, who goes without salary, or who, like that conversation of reality, because not very many businesses start up with enough money to pay two owners all the way through.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah, life experience. So Kelly, actually, she already mentioned that she loves to read self-development books and things like that. So I want her to share some of the things that she does to, kind of grow yourself.
Yeah. Well, this one I've just recently been reading, and I really like. I love Audible books too. So
I was going to say, I wondered. Okay.
I'll listen, and then if I really like it, I'll get the hard copy.
Okay.
So I can look at it. But
I need to borrow that.
This is great. This is Dean Graziosi. He started in real estate, but these are just success principles. Get up in the morning, take a little bit of time to center yourself, whether that's meditation or a quick journal.
Cup of tea
with that. I was saying earlier, it's so noisy out there between our children and our phone and our social media that it can be overwhelming and hard to get a thought together. Yeah. And the studies that show, the increase in learning disorders with kids, it's all this, there's so much noise and interruption.
Background chatter.
Yeah, and when I talk to other women, I like that Idaho, the Coeur d'Alene Impact Group, because
Yes.
they're self-development and business. And what I hear from those women is it's just hard to find the time to think uninterrupted to create a business plan or to really analyze what needs to happen in a business. So creating those hours or carving out some sort of time where you can really turn off your ringer, not have kids coming in and out. Like I say, if you're starting something up and you have a sitter and you can run to Starbucks or somewhere to where, if the kids know you're in the house, it doesn't matter how good of a nanny or a husband that you have, they will track you down. They've got your scent.
Yeah.
And you just you can't get away from it. And just like this morning, you had one stay home and, you know, I get a text, can you run something to school? So, you know, being a business person and a mom is different for men than it is for women. And so we have to stay really flexible. But you still have to clarify what you're really trying to accomplish, because it's more about the things you don't do than the things you do. So if you're running around really busy, really scattered and all the time, chances are you haven't taken the time to narrow down what you're really trying to accomplish. So you really don't know what the vital few are. And again, that's something that is not fun. It's not fun to slow down and take the time to do that exercise, to get to your why, or to clarify what you're really trying. It's easier to just stay busy.
That's true. Than to stop and think, what are my passions? What are my dreams? What do I want to do with myself other than wearing the mom hat I'm wearing, or the full-time working woman, or whatever? But you have to stop and take that time. I think you said earlier, even if you had a babysitter for 4 hours a week, don't plan on your shower and you're getting dressed in that 4 hours. Plan on getting out of the house so that you can go somewhere and stop and think.
Have a train of thought.
Put the AirPods in, or even take a walk by yourself, so that you've got that. Yeah, to get your
walking
train of thought.
meditations and walking. And I think a lot of people think the same thing with running. It's a good way to clear your head and new ideas come. And they've done a lot of studies with exercise and kids in lower income schools getting better grades with just 30 minutes of something exercise in the morning.
Oh, okay.
And that's true for us too, especially with so much stuff coming in all the time. And sometimes I don't do as well as others of making it a priority. I liked when Oprah said you can have it all, but not necessarily all at the same time.
I love Oprah.
So I think that, sometimes... and it's like good years and bad years in relationships and marriage. Businesses are like that. Some years I'm like, oh my gosh, this is why I did this. I have time to do everything with my kids, and wow, I've got this balance, and I'm working out and I'm playing tennis. And then other years it's like, and I'm working till 3 a.m, and why am I doing this? So you just, I think you have to know, that
especially
those
as an
are,
entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, and raising teenagers,
yes.
And any relationships and there's just it's just what it is. But I think as you get older, you can take it in more stride and not give it quite so much impact. I know I really stop and think whenever there's a problem. Like we all see it from our own vantage point, and we all see it differently. And especially with like team members, and they're having a problem, and I know they're doing the best they can with the information they have right then, and it really helps your anxiety and if you're not getting upset with people and you're more empathetic, you're a lot calmer inside.
So true.
You're a lot more enjoyable, to be around. And I think that you only soften those type A super achiever edges and perfectionist qualities that a lot of us had in high school and college, and then we realized with kids you can't keep your house perfect, right?
Right.
But it's like it wears you down a little bit.
Oh yes. Yeah.
But then when you can be empathetic and see things from other people's viewpoints, it's not nearly as stressful, And I was just talking about this time of year can be a really challenging time.
Yeah.
It can be a little bit of a depressing time. You go into that fall, winter, and if you do struggle with moods or anxiety or depression, this is when it hits.
Yeah, the January blues.
It's hard, and
as I look out over the gray,
everything
gray
gets
out here
gray,
at
and
your beautiful office.
you feel the pressure to create your best year ever,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Other people are talking resolutions, and you're like, can I just get a nap from the holidays? And how
I need to
much
put
napping
away
is it going to take before I'm rested?
I know. And it's time to put away the Christmas decorations or whatever. Just a side note, we did just write a new blog about the January blues and trying to kind of fill up your own cup after those holidays that can be so stressful. So check that out on Start Loving You. What do you do for yourself? I mean, I know that there are self-care things that you do. She used to do masks for me and our whole mom group when she and Kim had their spa, and so I know that there are certain things that she does for herself that are maybe things that we could think of that could help us.
Well, I mean, since it's a new year, I think, and I do that too. When the weather's gray, I have to really get motivated. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. I really like doing that. Instead of reality shows, podcasts are they're kind of my guilty pleasure. I'll have earbuds in all the time. I don't know how much is too much. I just say more good than bad, okay?
Yes.
But I do have, this is my favorite, This Living Your Best Year Ever, that's written by Darren Hardy. This I love for planning because it goes through and it helps you talk about your life assessment, where you are with your relationships, with spirituality, with your fitness, with your job, and you rate it, and then you graph it and kind of see how you're doing, and whether you're balanced or not. And then you set your monthly and yearly goals, and it actually lets you track how you're doing. So if you are a person that likes to check the boxes, what this does is it takes you from, okay, I want to be healthy, to, well, what does that mean on a weekly basis? Well, it means I want to drink 64 ounces of water each day. I want to work out 3 times a week for at least a half hour. I want to do, those little, like, measurable, either it's a yes or a no. Okay?
Yeah.
Wine 3 nights a week, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so you put that down, and then you can track it each week and kind of see where you're going. And this accountability helps me because it takes it from the bigger, I'd like to double my company. Well, okay, what does that mean? What do I need to do? You have to get down into action items of quarterly and monthly and daily. Or, I want to create a better relationship with my children. Then you might put in here something like dinner 3 nights a week. Without the TV, or like that
no
kind
phone.
of a thing. No phone, no TV. Or you might say one date night with your daughter, or a date outing. Those measurable things. Or if it's a relationship, the popular one is one date night, right? And that kind of stuff. So if you really want to take an inventory of why you feel how you feel and want help trying to figure out where you're really trying to go, then I really love this, and it's not very expensive. I really like it. Now, Mel Robbins has the 5-second journal, which is great for moms. So if you already know what you want and you just want something every day to say, okay, this is my one thing I'm going to do this day. This is how I woke up feeling. This is a little more simplified, right? And so the only thing I would say about this is, unless you feel clear about what you're really trying to accomplish, then this is more of just kind of a to-do thing, and you can kind of be focusing on things that aren't really going to get you to where you want to go.
Okay.
It's kind of like your navigation in your car. If you can't put in where you're trying to go, the chances that your car is going to get you are not, and so how do you get there if you can't tell the car where you're trying to go? And it's the same thing with your mind. Once you really set your mind to something and you know you want it, like my dream house, things start opening and happening for you. Once you're brave enough to decide and commit, and then start talking about it. What you talk about, you bring about. What you think about, you bring about. Words have power. I think it's just because you spend enough time thinking about it and talking about it, and then slowly your mind, and you'll do what it takes to create that if you really want it.
Right.
So taking the time of what you really want. You got to clarify it, because if you kind of want it but you're kind of afraid of it, then you're kind of like, come here, get away.
Yeah, that's so true. I think some people are scared of success. I definitely think that.
Or you want it, like maybe you want to make a lot of money, but you're afraid that it's going to be really hard to manage a lot of money. Or you want to grow the company, but it might be even more stressful with more people, or anything like that. It's because you don't know what you don't know. And if it's stressful now and it gets bigger, then most certainly it'll be much more stressful. But I don't think Sir Richard Branson thinks so.
I love following him. He literally just posted something where he was scuba diving underneath their island.
Oh.
I don't know. That just sounds like something I could do this weekend. I know, he really does.
I don't know how people do one venture and open another venture and another venture. I would love to crawl inside his brain and see. They say you have to be comfortable with failing more often, because only 25% of their stuff makes it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So you have to be willing to fall forward, they say, or try and pick yourself up. And most overnight successes take 10 years in the making, and it's usually their third or fourth thing. And so not being ashamed of your failures, but learning from them, and and then not being afraid to try again. So if you've tried before to do a small business and it hasn't worked out, but you learned things like, yes, pay your 941 taxes because you won't be able to pay it if you don't. Whatever those lessons might have been, then the next time you go in that much smarter, and it does happen faster. So, each time you've stumbled, the next time I feel like that business builds exponentially faster. Do you feel like, you did Lollipop and you've done different things. Do you feel like now it comes together quicker because you...
I feel like I trust myself more with, just when you have a dream or a passion or you're bored. I know that sounds dumb, but as a mom at home with little ones, I was bored. I wasn't using my creative. I was busy. I was busy and bored, and I wasn't using my creative side. Well, I tried. I'd have the birthday parties.
You made those cards, those gorgeous cards.
I did.
love those.
I sold greeting cards in flower shops, and so all these little things I kept trying. Baby steps. Started a children's clothing, store, and Kelly is one of those people that will encourage you all the way. So using the word encourage again, I encourage you to find friends that think big and dream big, but also work big and work hard. So I can guarantee you she's missed many a ladies' night out with us and girls' weekends because she's working so hard on her business. And, this is her second 7-figure business. And so there's a reason for it. She's working really hard. But, yeah, just believing in yourself and all those baby steps and all those little failures just help push you to, you might fall forward, but you won't fall backward.
And even with that, it's a double-edged sword, right? So the company's growing, and I had to travel. I had to be out of town for a couple of those things, and I felt really guilty not going. I thought, are they going to keep inviting me if I keep not showing up? Am I going to get, you feel like, gosh, I really want to go, and I do think that, having your friendships and being able to give back to people, that's where a lot of contentment comes from. And so you have to balance things, and I do try to balance things if I'm not out of town. But one of my goals this year is to make more time for my social and for my friends, because I know that it can be really isolating, and you can get kind of sad just focused, even though I have a great team.
Yes.
When I get too deep into business and don't somehow carve out that time to go be with friends, then I feel kind of depressed and isolated. And so that's one of my priorities in my thing is like once a week. I'm trying to get together with Carrie Collins tonight. But yeah, but I have to make an effort.
She's another go-getter.
I have to make an effort. Otherwise, I'll just keep working.
Right. And then we have to pull her weight, and we know that. So know your strengths and weaknesses, and know those for your family and your friends, because I didn't realize I was experiencing a little bit of the January blues until a good friend pointed it out to me the other day when I said, I'm just so tired, I'm just feeling so run down, and I'm ready. I've got my vision board, and I wrote down all my dreams and my visions because, like Kelly, I believe that when you write it out, it's much more likely to come true when it's out there in the universe.
Even because you're just clarifying it for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so my friend said, well, I think you've got a little bit of that, that January downhill thing where you've taken care of everybody for the last 6 weeks, made sure all the presents were perfect and the house looked great and the party was great, and now it's like a letdown. You've done all of that and just been going busy, strong. And
even
now
racehorses cannot sprint all the time.
See, I like that.
Yeah. So I feel
I've never heard that. I
feel really if I'm not going 100%, I'll be really my self-talk in my head is like that. Like I'm not doing why am I tired? Why am I not doing more? I'm not doing what I should be doing. But there is a natural ebb and flow to that. And when you really look at nature or look at animals or look at, they know when they're tired and when they need to rest.
Right.
And superwomen especially will just burn ourselves right into the ground, which who does that help? That doesn't help anyone.
Helps no one.
You can't give what you don't have. We were talking about that. And if mama's not happy, nobody's happy, right?
Right.
So yes, taking the time to do gratitude journal and meditate, even if it's like 10 minutes for me in the morning, really is an important, that morning ritual is what I've chosen to concentrate on. I kind of like, what's the saying? A well-made bed is a well-made day. It's kind of like you brush your teeth, wash your face, wash your hair hygienically outside. Why wouldn't you take the time to kind of reset internally, right?
Yes, I like that.
And you kind of owe it to yourself to do that, but I'm not saying it's very simple. And it doesn't matter what you do to sit down and write down a couple of things or to even taking 5 minutes to think about what you're grateful for. It doesn't have to be a traditional meditation practice or anything. It's just that time, but to make yourself a priority and to actually do it is that Nike thing, you know. They were onto something.
Just do it.
They were onto something. But
They are onto
once
something.
you do it a few times, you start being pleased with yourself, and you get that self accomplishment, and then it's a little bit easier the more often that you do it.
Yes, I think that's so true. I start every morning, you know, lying in bed. Is it laying or lying in bed? My mom's on here, and she's a grammar guru, so she'll let me know. Hey, Candace is on here too. Hey, everybody. So we're just wrapping up, but yeah, every morning I lie in bed and I say, you know, like 5 minutes of prayers, and then my husband and I make our coffee, and we, you know, I go upstairs and I'm busy getting the breakfast and the lunches ready, but I'm by myself, and so I'm thinking a lot about what I want to accomplish that day, and it's not that quiet time necessarily, but my hands are busy, so my head is able to, you know, stop and think about the things that I want to get done. So I like, that's kind of my time too.
But the in bed, there's a couple different writers that talk about that. Just, you know, for the first couple of minutes before you get out of bed, think of 3 things you're grateful for. And if nothing else, that alone, they say you can't experience 2 emotions simultaneously.
Oh, that's right. You told me that earlier. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, which I know in like spa procedures, like the thermage was so hot and it really hurt, and they added this vibrating tip to it, and I am not kidding. You don't feel the heat, you only feel the vibration, because you can only sense one thing.
Painful.
Yeah, well, but it's not anymore with that. But it's the same thing. They say you can't experience gratitude and depression at the same time. So if you're in a state of gratitude, even if it's for 3 minutes, you'll get a little reprieve from anxiety or sadness or stress or overwhelm, which those are the top 3 things that most women feel is overwhelm and anxiety and just
Not being enough.
not being enough. Yeah, not being enough, and that's very common, and I don't know, like I even with the accomplishments that I've had along the way, 3 or 4 years, or about 4 years ago, when I really had to think about just really taking this business on my own with no safety net to grow it and everything, it was still scary. Like, can I do that? And I don't know how many times I have to prove to myself that I can actually support myself if I need to. But even with that and with all the success that's going on, I still had that like anxiety of like, can I really do this? So I don't think it matters what level of success you're at in any area. I think you're still going to have a little bit of that self-doubt, but the more times
pushes you forward too,
yeah,
though,
the more
right?
times you accomplish over it and hit the euphoria for getting there,
Right.
then you're less, then you realize, okay, yes, this is natural, everybody feels this, it's going to be okay. This is just that survival part of us that is afraid of change and afraid of something new, because it's so deep in our psyche that we don't even have any control over it. But after you face it and get the reward on the other side being so good, you see the carrot, and you're able to put it to bed quickly and faster and faster, and do it, even though, you know, run towards your fears or do it, you know, but you get better at it and it gets less intense.
Yes, I
It
totally
does
agree
get
with
less
that. I do
intense.
agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love all of this wisdom that you've shared with us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we're just going to wrap up here. That's been so fun to talk to you. I just appreciate my friend so much. And, you know, we talked about the support and encouragement of each other, and this is her office. She lets me use this for many of my lunch and listens, and one of our best friends is one of her, several or some of her team out there. So it really goes to show you that if you have a love for what you do, it spreads and it makes other people want to be around, because I just knew immediately I need to go see if I can, you know, use Kelly's office. I know it's going to make me feel good when I come in. I'm going to feel confident when I go on my lunch and listens to talk to all these amazing women that I interview like her. So find those people that make you feel good and surround yourself, hi Mom, surround yourself with them, so that you can be the best you. And especially in the new year, it's a good time to start that. Thanks
Happy
so
New
much
Year.
for joining us, everyone. If you have questions, go ahead and plop them down here. We'll go ahead and record our live, and we are also, like I said, on Facebook, and we'll share that too. So thanks again, everybody. Happy Wednesday.